I love this season. I love this season. And this is a season I didn't get to experience before we moved to Orlando.
I know. And we waited so long for this season to come out, too. Remember how long of a wait that was between season 3 and season 4?
Oh, you're talking about Stranger Things.
Yeah.
I was talking about
What season are you talking about?
Halloween Horror Nights season. I guess it works on...
Because that's what this episode's about. All right.
It works on 2 levels. This season, we actually, we did wait a long time for, though. For Stranger Things Season 4, I don't know when Stranger Things Season 5 is going to come out, so we're just going to have to...
Who knows with that writer's strike. However, as we just about hit the record button, there has been a breakthrough. Our friend Scott Gustin on Twitter here, who's like...
Would you like
the
me to read
Disney news guy, Danny? If you have it open, yeah.
Yeah, he tweeted that the WGA, we have reached a tentative agreement, and the Writers Guild of America tweeted, and Scott Gustin made sure it got out to the masses. The WGA and AMPTP have reached a tentative agreement. This was made possible by the enduring solidarity of the WGA members and extraordinary support of our union siblings who stood with us for over 146 days. More details coming after contract language is finalized.
Huge news.
It's huge news.
The writer's strike looks like it's coming to an end. It's not officially over yet, but it looks like they have reached a tentative deal, which is an amazing, amazing sign. That means that content is going to be greenlit again, and hopefully we'll get Stranger Things Season 5 sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, one of the things is we've done our best to do what we can to support. And, you know, we are very excited to be able to support all of those who are going to be able to work again and create amazing content that we love and get to enjoy, like Stranger Things 4.
Yep.
And some other IP that we got to see this year. But I'm so excited to get into this. But again, we are so excited about Halloween Horror Nights. Before we moved here, I had only gone one time. And if you've listened to us before, you know that it was nightmare fuel.
Yes. We've gone over it in previous episodes. It was way too many steps in one day, and it was just pain at the end of the night.
Why was it too many steps?
Because we did Universal Islands of Adventure, Universal Studios earlier in that day.
Open to close.
And then did a full evening of Halloween Horror Nights.
Open to close.
But like I said, we've gone into this before. We're not going to dive into it now.
But that was my first experience. And then once we went back, we moved here, we have always, the past couple of years, invested in getting basically a multi-night pass.
Right.
Now, one year we did the top one, right?
We did. No. We've always done the frequent fear pass.
I think the very first year we got the very top one and then found out we weren't going.
Did we?
I think so. Because I think that we were like, oh yeah, we'll find days to go on like Saturdays. And then we found that because we work full-time jobs and we usually work, over the weekends, we just weren't making it there as much as
Plus how busy the weekends generally are.
Yeah.
Fridays and Saturdays are usually crazy at Halloween Horror Nights.
I think we maybe went one time, and then the next year we were like, you know what? We didn't make it there enough. But we love Halloween Horror Nights, and we've gotten to experience everything that Halloween Horror Nights has to offer so far this year. So we are coming to you with our honest, very excited, and just heartfelt review. So you guys can, if you can't make it here, you get to experience it through us. And, if you are going, to kind of get a little peek and see what we thought about it so you guys can kind of see if you agree with us.
Before we jump in, if you don't know who we are a couple of park hoppers. My name is Bill.
My name is Danny.
And we are just so excited to be talking about this. And we are so excited to be back on your airwaves. I know it's been a little bit since we did an episode, but let me tell you a little bit of what was going on.
What happened?
I went on a bachelor party cruise, and then I came home, and I got sick for about a week, and then Danny got sick for about a week.
That's what he brought home for me from the cruise. He was like, hey, honey, I brought you this.
Yeah.
A cold.
And then, so we were recovering, like barely doing anything in the parks, anything like that. And then Danny's family was here for about a week up until a few days ago. So it's just been nonstop, either being out of commission or busy.
Yeah, and I joke that he brought me home a cold, but you know when you live
I did.
when you live with somebody, you just share things,
Yep.
including
Including colds.
including colds.
Including colds.
I also want to say there was a little bit of time there where neither of us had a voice.
Right. There was a couple days after I got sick that I literally had zero voice. And you can't really do a podcast without a voice. Just to let you know.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as like miming podcasts.
I was also working, so both of us were both of us were working, but we were both talking for about 8 hours a day.
Right.
And we would come home and just be like, we're not supposed to be talking. So we are so excited to be back. We are working on basically finding like making sure we have a good schedule coming up so you guys get regular content from us.
More reliable.
We have a lot of things in the works. We
Yeah.
also had some things in the works that are currently on hold due to different things, but will come in the future.
Can we touch on the thing that happened a couple days ago, or the thing we found out about yesterday morning real quick?
Sure.
Can we touch on that?
Yeah.
'Cause it's bothering me, and I want everybody to kind of know if we do kind of slow down on the YouTube stuff for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about something else.
So out of nowhere, YouTube sent us an email saying that your channel has been demonetized, and we were like, "What the heck?"
Yeah.
We had no idea why, how it happened. We never got any warnings, anything like that. YouTube just went ahead and sent us an email and said, "You've been demonetized, and here's why," but it was the most vague explanation ever. It didn't give us specific examples of anything that we did wrong. It just said this overarching reason, and it didn't give us any specific examples. We are in the middle of an appeal right now, and we will let you know as soon as that appeal process is done, but it may be a couple of months. So we may slow down a little bit on the YouTube content, because honestly, it's not worth doing at the moment with the way that things are kind of looking at this very second, you know?
Yeah.
And so
are
we're
you
going to be kind of focusing a little bit more on other things, podcast, TikTok, especially. We love TikTok. TikTok is so much fun. But YouTube we may pump the brakes on YouTube a little bit until this appeal process is finalized.
So also, we don't have a lot of confidence in the appeal process.
Correct.
From what we've seen, it's very robotic and AI run. And so if that happens, we would be able to reapply for that closer to the end of the year.
Right.
We'll still be uploading content and
Here and
working on that.
Yeah.
But we're kind of re-evaluating how we share our content.
And how we approach different events and things that we go to. We've got a lot of things, really fun things lined up for you guys in October and November, December, and on. Lots of really cool opportunities we're going to have in the near future. Lots of fun things that we've been invited to. So stay tuned for all that. But I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up if you do see a little bit of a slowdown in
You probably have noticed it already.
YouTube uploads. That's why.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that when you have full-time jobs, when you are a real-life couple that wants to spend your free time together doing quality time things, whether it's date nights or going to the movies or doing those kind of things, and you're spending those times going out and creating content and spending hours editing different things, and separating things for different platforms.
Correct. Yeah.
It can be very, very disheartening.
Especially going out and doing things where we're shooting double.
Yeah.
Because obviously horizontal, vertical, YouTube.
Right. It's just very disheartening to have that happen. But I will tell you, it's not going to keep us down. It's just
no.
But I do want to let you guys know it is kind of like a kick in the pants.
A swift kick in the jimmies.
But the thing is, something like this, we know that long term we'll figure out exactly what's going on with YouTube and why. And if we have to change different things in the way that, things change all the time. So like their terms and agreements and what they're looking for and how they have different rules. Those kind of things change all the time. So even if you're not breaking any rules, if AI is...
Yeah. AI and robots run the world, and it's a really scary place when you think about it.
Yeah.
It's just... It said it was basically through our searches, which I can't imagine there's like some guy scrolling every channel on YouTube, like demonetizing everything through that, or automated software or something that we've detected something that we decided to demonetize your channel. And we have gone above and beyond to not use a ton of copyrighted material like music in our podcasts and especially our YouTube videos. Our podcasts are whatever, because they're always unlisted just for you guys and on Patreon. But we never post copyrighted music on our YouTube videos that we're monetizing. Anytime we use images or a clip of something, we always properly credit it. So we have no idea why this happened, nor do they, apparently, because there wasn't any specific examples that they sent us.
And none of our videos say anything.
Right, and there's no warnings on any of the videos. So we're going through this process right now. It's a gigantic pain in the ass, and I'm not happy about it. But just wanted to kind of give you a heads up. If you do see a little bit of a slowdown with the YouTube content, that's why.
Yeah, and the thing is, the reality of a content creator is that things are always changing. And so we do want to make sure that we have kind of an equal balance. And so we're figuring that out as we continue to grow, because we're happy with the growth that we've had and we want to continue growing. So, but for those of you who don't know anything about YouTube, I want to compare it to if you buy something off of a website and the website has no way to reach them.
Right. Yeah. Can we just ask somebody what exactly we did wrong?
That's what it's like trying to figure out exactly what happened on YouTube, because the only thing you can do was we were able to record a video and
basically had to like plead our case.
Yeah. There's no way to talk to anybody. Yeah. So it's just not fun. But again, this is just a minor speed bump. It's very frustrating, but in the long-term goals and life of our channel and our platforms, I believe that this is something that in a couple of months, or hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll be able to say, hey, guess what? We got through that, and we're gonna make sure that from here on out, the things that YouTube updates, that we are looking through them. We are looking through the terms and conditions.
Right, exactly.
So, and again, we're not saying we did anything wrong, but, we don't
know what we did wrong.
Yeah, we're going to make sure that
if anything at
they
all.
can never even allude to anything going on. So, again, very frustrating. We think it was a mistake, but I digress.
All right, so we are in the episode now.
So let's go back to Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah, back to Universal. So this episode is a long time coming. We finally were able to get through all 10 houses, all 5 scare zones. We sat through iteration number 3 of their nighttime show at Halloween Horror Nights, and we're going to kind of go over everything real quick with you guys. We're going to read the description of each house, kind of discuss it a little bit, and then we're going to give our score out of 10. And no, we're not doing even numbers. We're doing decimals.
What do we want to talk about first? Do we want to do houses first, or should we do?
Let's do houses first.
Okay.
Let's do houses first. We don't have to do it in order, but we can do houses first. All right, so let's dive in to our 10 Halloween Horror Nights houses. Oops, that's the wrong slide there. There we go. Where did it go? There it is, right there. There's our 10 Halloween Horror Nights houses that we have at Halloween Horror Nights 32. For those of you watching on Patreon, patreon.com/a couple of park hoppers. Go ahead and subscribe for as little as $3 a month. You can really, really, really help us out. All right, so let's dive into. You want to do the non-IP houses first?
No, I know exactly what I want to start with.
All right, go for it.
I would like to start with not the first house on our list.
Okay.
Chucky, ultimate kill count. Chucky's back.
Come here, Toots.
Chucky's back for even more carnage. Chucky, the serial killer doll, is back for a new gore fest. He's hijacked his own haunted house with all kinds of bloody hijinks. You and your friends must try to survive his ultimate kill count. So I want to start this first. I picked this house first because Chucky has taken over our lives, and luckily not in a murdery
Yeah, right.
way.
Not in a murderous way.
So when we first heard that Chucky was going to be one of the houses, I told Bill I'd never seen the Chucky movies, any of them. And so we started watching all of them.
Yes, we watched Child's Play 1, Child's Play 2, Child's Play 3, Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, Cult of Chucky, Curse of Chucky.
And have started the
and
show.
have started the show on Peacock, and it is fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
It's so great.
I am just like obsessed with Chucky, but we had like I love this like whole Chucky thing. So first off, when we went through the house, can I say what we were met with at the very beginning?
Yeah.
The first thing you're met with is a Chucky animatronic doll.
Like a literal Chucky, just right there talking to you, like eyes blinking, mouth moving. I was very excited to see him talking and hearing the actual voice of Chucky, which is so cool. I'm going to mute that, or I'm going to bleep this on our podcast, but I'm not going to bleep it for you Patreons. So I pictured him just going, "Don't fuck with the Chuck." I love it so much. It is so much fun.
But as soon as I saw him, I feel like I acted like I saw a puppy. I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's so cute." But this house is so cool because I wasn't sure if we were going to be walking into people like dressed as Chucky.
Yeah, that would have been weird. It's like the Figment meet and greet.
But
Like, why is he so big?
Which we still need to do.
No, we don't.
I want to do it.
Okay.
But what I was going to say was that the cool part about this was, without giving too much away, there were a lot of Chucky, basically like puppets.
Yeah.
That were pretty well hidden. Like the puppeteers were dressed all in black.
I didn't notice them.
I saw all
personally.
of them personally. But I wish that there had been more of a Chucky animatronic.
There's a knock on the door outside. Don't mind, Simba. We're going to leave this in for you Patreon folks. But this is the bonus content you get from us. When the dog barks.
When the dog barks. When the bees sing.
Simba, go sit down.
When Chucky kills.
A peek behind the scenes. A couple of park hoppers.
A couple of park hoppers. There he goes. He thinks he's protected us from the...
Something happened. Somebody banged something outside our door, and so he going over there. He goes like, "You shut up out there." Yeah, let's continue. Let's continue in 3, 2, 1.
So one of the reasons that, or one of the things I wish I had seen more of was I wanted more of another Chucky animatronic. The fact that you got to see it for like a couple seconds while you were walking by at the beginning, and then the rest were like screens and puppets.
Yeah.
I wish there had been like one more at the end or something.
Right. Yeah. Beginning and end. Close it out. Chucky sandwich.
Well, that sounds weird. But I personally gave this house an 8.5 out of 10 because I thought it was one of the reasons that you come to Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah.
Because the caliber of the houses is so high. I mean, what other places can you go and get like an animatronic of a well-loved,
a legendary killer doll?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like for anything, like an animatronic in a haunted house. And I think I'm pretty sure it was an animatronic.
The first one definitely was, for sure.
And so the only reason I gave it less than that was because I wish there had been more animatronics, and then because I could see all the puppeteers. But I also have worked in haunted houses and kind of look for those details.
Yeah.
Personally,
I gotta like to lose myself in the moment. I try not to look for those things.
See, it's so funny because you and I are so opposite in some of the other things where you're like, oh, I know how this was done in
I noticed how things were done
in different shows where like with other things I lose myself in the moment. So it's just interesting our difference. But I gave this an 8.5. What about you?
I'm gonna give it a solid 8. I really liked the fact that Chucky was there. Like Nanny said, the animatronic was awesome. The puppets were fun, but there was like zero story in this house whatsoever. I couldn't figure out what was going on, and it was called Ultimate Kill Count, and there was just like people popping out of nowhere that were all bloody, but it didn't really have any flow to it. And then there was like this weird middle part that was like nothing, and that I thought was the end of the house, and then we went back in because it was in the Fast and the Furious building.
And it was like that for the house last year that was the Blum house.
Yeah, the Blum house. Yeah.
But that one was bad.
But I would say just a solid 8 because I love the idea of little Chuckies running around, but the fact that there was just no flow and no story, and I didn't really understand like what the kill count part was, and was there like a count at the end because I didn't notice it.
I think it was just a creative way to say that he's a murdery doll.
Right. So there really wasn't any sort of flow to it whatsoever. So the fact that I got to see Chucky in person and like living, breathing Chucky bumped the score up a little bit, but I'll give it an 8.
I also have to say that I love Chucky, but I don't know if I would bring home a popcorn bucket.
You have this awesome popcorn bucket.
Or maybe I would. I'm not sure.
That when you say, "Hey, Chucky," and he'll like blink his eyes and say things, or his eyes will turn bright red in the popcorn bucket.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Also, I do want to mention that we also watched the brand new Chucky off of Peacock.
Yeah,
because they redid
that's what
it.
we said. Yeah.
Oh,
The movie, you mean?
The new one.
The one with Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah,
yeah.
So there's more Chucky.
Yeah, we missed that one.
There's more Chucky than you would
There's so
ever
much
think,
Chucky.
and I actually feel like I can't get enough. So that's why I wanted to kick off with this, just so we could talk about the fact that we watched so much of it.
One really cool touch too is that in the Cult and Curse movies, the main character is actually played by Brad Dourif's daughter, the guy who plays Chucky.
Huh.
So that's pretty cool.
Also,
It's like a family legacy.
Luke Skywalker is the voice of Chucky in the new Peacock.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Mark Hamill is the voice of Chucky. It sounds weird when Brad Dourif's not doing Chucky.
But also at the end we were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
All right, so if you want to go to the next house.
Let's do it. Let's go to Universal Monsters Unmasked. 4 Universal Monsters, 1 new nightmare. Descend into the Paris catacombs where you and your squad will face a new horde of monsters. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the Phantom of the Opera, and the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and the Invisible Man. I didn't really understand what was going on in this house. It was basically you go into the catacombs in Paris, and you just discover these monsters, like I said, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Phantom of the Opera, Hunchback, and Invisible Man. And they're just ripping people apart and killing people. And it's a gory mess. There's one scene in this house that, like, I totally was like, whoa, ew, God, ew, gross. There was one scene where this woman was lying face down on a table, and there was a guy who reached into her back, pulled her spine out of her back, but like the top half of the woman was real. Like it was like a scare actor. And so it wasn't like one of those things where you see like gore happening to like a dummy.
Yeah.
It was like the girl was like, ah! And it was like, oh, that was so gross.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you had that reaction because I didn't even notice her spine.
Oh, really?
When I walked by, because I've worked in haunted houses in the past, I was like, man, she's got a good spot because she gets to chill and like lie down the entire while she's there.
Yeah.
Which so many people just have to be on their feet and walking back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And that was my first thought. I was like, oh, hey, it's a real person. That's a good spot to be in, was my first thought.
Throughout this house, there was like this young girl narrator that the voice is just so ingrained in my head now, where it's like she's just screaming out extra, extra.
That was a girl,
I think, or a young boy.
I think it was a young boy.
The same difference, really. The voice, you can never tell young boys and girls differences.
I thought it was like a little boy.
But it was like extra, extra.
Weed all about it.
Yeah, I thought I was in the scene in Spaceship Earth.
Yeah.
Where the kid's facing the door. But they were yelling about how the catacombs have been uncovered and the museum workers have gone missing. There was the first night we went through this house, we actually got stopped right before what seems to be like the scare in the house because there was some sort of technical issue. And I was trying not to pay attention to it, but curiosity got to me after about 5 minutes because you had just like those little drapes hanging in front of you so you could kind of see through them. And there's a really cool scare at the end where it looks like the monster is going to fall on you, but he's just kind of suspended there.
He's on like a bungee system.
Yeah.
So basically, if you're watching on Patreon, like he's up here, and then like here's the edge.
Yeah.
And the bungee is attached on his back.
Right.
So he kind of like does this and gets bounced back. Does this.
He like looks like he's going to fall on you and then
and
comes
you're
back
walking
up.
Underneath him.
Right.
So
that was a really, really cool effect. I wish I had seen that without seeing what was happening while they were fixing it.
And we get things happen.
Totally.
We just got stopped for quite a while.
Totally. But another house that I didn't really understand the story. The monsters were cool. That one thing that I was talking about with the spine, that was really awesome. But it doesn't really bring up the grade for the house for me that much. So I'm going to go with a 6.5.
So I definitely meant to put something different on here. We went through this house twice, and I think this house deserves a 6. It's kind of like your basic, like classic monsters house. But one thing I don't love about this particular like iteration of the house is that every monster looks so disfigured it's hard to like realize who they are.
Right, yeah.
And for me, I want it, if I'm like walking through a house and I have to be like going quickly, like there's people who are like, you know, so if you stop for anything, like there are team members who are like, come on, like you got to keep going, which is fine. They have to keep things moving, but you want things to be recognizable immediately.
Correct. Especially with iconic characters like that.
Yeah. And so I went through the first time and I was like, it was fine. And then I went through a second time and I was like, that was still fine. And I want to come out being like, you know, having that same reaction that I did in the Chucky house or in some of the other houses that we went through. So I'm going to give that a 6.
All right. Moving on to The Last of Us. Step into the world of The Last of Us. You and your squad will encounter the haunting and overgrown world of the video game in a brand new, terrifying way. Stay silent if you want to survive a multitude of clickers, hunters, and more. Now, I'm going to preface this with I've never seen the show, and I've never played the game.
Right.
And I know the house is based on the game, and it was a really cool house. There was a lot of great scares. I kind of understand what was going on. It's sort of like a Walking Dead almost, but with different types of monsters rather than just like disease-ridden zombies.
Right.
The house itself was awesome. I didn't really understand what was happening. I don't know any of the characters or anything like that, but there was definitely some solid jump scares, and the sets were really cool. So that's really all I have to say about The Last of Us. So I'm going to give it a solid 7.
I actually gave it the same score. I did feel like I was in a video game, but meaning the reason I feel like that is because it felt like everybody we came across was a NPC, like a non-player character in a video game. Like somebody would pop up and be like, hey, come with me. And then like retreat back to their scare spot.
Right.
Hey, come with me. And like, I just imagine that a non-player character in
that way.
Go that way.
That way.
Yeah, exactly. And it was gross, but in a fun, spooky way. Like there was this bathroom that you walk through that for some reason it makes me feel like going into a public park that hasn't had good upkeep. Like gross, doors knocked off, just like a nightmare to go to the bathroom in, which I know wasn't the point. You don't have to go to the bathroom in the haunted house, but it looked really nasty and that was scary in itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, for two people who have never watched the show, never played the video game, I definitely got the vibe, and I definitely felt like it translated that it was from a video game because they actually based it off of the video game, not the show, is what I understood.
Yeah, there was a PlayStation logo on The Last of Us poster that they used for Horror Nights, so it was very much so based on the video game, which I've never played.
Yeah, so across the board, we both gave that a 7. All right. So next, let's go ahead and go with uh, Blood Moon Dark Offerings.
Oh, we're bouncing around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bleed for the blood moon in a colonial era village. Moon worshippers witness a blood moon at their fall festival. They take it as a sign to hunt down any non-followers, including you and your Scream Squad. Hey, that's what my shirt
Scream
says.
Squad.
It says Scream Squad on it.
Nice.
They love to use that.
They do. They do.
So, I think this house was like walking through an expensive Spirit Halloween store, which is not a compliment. If I feel like I can spend a bunch of money at Spirit Halloween and come up with a similar house, then you didn't do your job right. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay. Do you have a score?
Yeah, I gave this a 2.9.
2 point.
And I was
Wow.
being generous.
2.9 for Blood Moon Dark Offerings. So, judging from a couple of videos that we watched, this house was actually designed by the same people who did the Dead Man's Pier last year, which was
the best
honestly
house.
the best house they had last year.
Yeah, y'all go on vacation? What happened?
I think it was in the same soundstage. They had a lot of very similar set elements, which I thought were really cool. But maybe it was just the one time I've been through this. I'd have to go through it again. But I could see every single jump scare that was happening way in front of me.
Yeah, we had zero scares. In
I
that.
didn't get scared whatsoever in this house. It was gory. It was gross. There was, like I said, really cool set pieces. There was a 2-story set involved with this house. So that was really cool. And that's the only reason why I didn't give it something as low as Danny's. I will definitely go through it again, give it another chance, just because you have to go through these houses multiple times to get a different experience. Sometimes you'll see everything. Sometimes it'll happen to you. You got to give it more than one shot. But for my first one and only run through this house, I'm going to give it a 4.
Yeah, this was again. We're gonna go through it again, and maybe I'll feel differently. But my first reaction was definitely Spirit Halloween, invested money in this house, and that's Universal. Most of their houses are of much higher caliber. So, yeah, 2.9 for me.
All right, moving on. Let's go to Dueling Dragons. Choose thy fate. No matter who you choose, you lose. 2 warlocks of great power were formed into dragons after trying to take Merlin's spellbook. Now you and your friends are caught in their epic battle. You must choose a path and a victor. Dueling Dragons was a ride at Islands of Adventure for a very long time. They were battling roller coasters. It is, or was, where Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure now sits. And, excuse me, it was a very, very cool ride. There was a red side, like a fire side, and a blue side, which was the ice side. And they literally crossed paths at one point. And it was such a cool concept. A lot of people were very excited when they decided that they were going to do a Dueling Dragons house this year at Halloween Horror Nights. And I found this house pretty underwhelming, personally. The set design was really cool. The characters were interesting looking. I had only been on Dueling Dragons once, so I don't really remember what that queue was like. And so it's not like I'm not like this Universal diehard who's like, Dueling Dragons is the greatest ride ever, and the queue was amazing. Well, I don't remember it that well. So if the queue was anything like this ride, then I'm sure that you will score it higher than me. But I didn't really quite enjoy what we saw in there, because the only time you really saw the dragons was the very end. And you saw the fire dragon and the ice dragon, and then you choose, which is actually really cool. It's like a choose your adventure type of thing. There's 2 ways you can go. You can go the fire side or the ice side, but then there's really nothing after that. You pick one side, and then there's like one quick room, and then you're outside. So I found it kind of underwhelming, and so for that reason, I'm out. I mean, it's not Shark Tank.
Oh, come on, Mr. Wonderful.
6.0 for me.
Would you? No, Mr. Cuban.
Yeah.
You're not-
I'm Robert. I'm just out on everything.
But you smile when
I don't
you
think
say
I've ever
it.
seen Robert like do anything.
I definitely have. We like watching Shark Tank.
I think he
case
goes
you
in
can't
on
tell.
deals like 2% of the time.
Well, here's the thing. I gave this house a 5.0, just a 5, because I think this was the equivalent of creating a house based on a mid ride. So like Dueling Dragons, I know that the idea behind it was supposed to go at the same time, and then there were issues. When we went on it, it was nothing but just like a basic roller coaster before it closed. Nothing really memorable, fun, as any coaster is, but nothing special about it. So the only thing I can compare it to is like trying to think of a ride that or an attraction that is closed. What's an attraction that has closed in the past? I mean, aside from that one, I was trying to think of one at like Disney that has closed. It's kind of like building a ride based off
Mr.
of
Toad's Wild Ride.
not even. I mean, not
Great
even
movie
that.
ride.
No, because that's loved. I'm talking about a ride that.
Oh, that was disliked?
No, not. But just like, oh, it closed.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe like
Body Wars.
I even feel like that's more love. But yes,
I don't know what you're getting at, but okay.
So it would kind of be like the equivalent of building a ride based off of like I don't even know if just a mid-level ride that everybody was like, oh, okay, closed.
Maelstrom.
That's a great one. That's yes. If you created a haunted house based off of that, only people who really miss it and really loved that are going to be
Or
hype about that.
Norwegians.
Well, nobody's really gonna like. So it has to be people who are like really into like the classics or like things that used to be.
Right.
And also, it wasn't a roller coaster, so it didn't really. It was just kind of like a love letter to a ride that had to be changed for what it was at the heart of it, and then closed.
Right.
So, I also think that the way that people looked was kind of like goofy. Little bit of the like it was more of like a Game of Thrones kind of a look.
Some people were saying that the scare actors kind of look like the Night Walkers from Game of Thrones, which I've also never seen, but I know what they look like. Yeah, it just wasn't anything like I expected. I thought more dueling dragons would be inside the house, but you didn't really see anything until the very end, and they weren't even really moving. They were just kind of breathing fire.
Yeah.
Like the dragon from, not Escape from Gringotts. What's the other one? The Forbidden Journey.
Yeah, so I agree with Bill. I wish that if you were going to do dueling dragons, you would have had more of a dragon versus dragon kind of a vibe.
Right.
Not a random versus a vibe. So,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was mid. It was mid, just like the roller coaster.
All right, moving on to Yeti Campground Kills.
You want me to read this one?
Yeti or not, here they come.
I guess not.
You can't hide. You and your friends are about to venture into a 1950s campground overrun by huge, menacing Yetis who rip apart anyone who gets in their way. You must flee to the Ranger Tower to escape.
So I liked this one. I gave this one a 7.5. I think it was exactly what you want out of a scare house that's kind of like an original idea.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of fun scares. The Yetis are so ridiculous and fluffy looking,
Right.
but they're also super scary. And then everything that you walk through, like, it looks very like, just basically like something horrible happened here.
Yeah.
And
It's like a horror movie.
it's like watching an old school, like, campground horror film.
It's like watching one of the episodes of Goosebumps back in the day, where it's like, it's not super scary or like spooky, but it's like, oh, that was, yeah.
You know what vibes
That
it
was a
gave me?
monster.
Do you remember there was a season of American Horror Story where they were all at camp and people were being murdered? It kind of gave me that vibe of like
1984.
1984, yeah. It kind of gave that vibe a lot, which I love. I kind of love that, like, just, I don't know, just old school horror movie. Just, that doesn't have anything to do with like technology. There's no phones. Like there's just people camping and being murdered. I think it's just what you want out of an original house. It gave me everything I wanted and some pretty great scares.
Yeah. See, I never really got scared in this house, and that kind of disappointed me because I was really looking forward to this one. I had heard from team member previews that this was one of the best houses, and again, I'm going to go through it, and I will maybe rescore it after I go through it again. I'm still going to give it a solid score, though. I love the set design. I love the tents. I love the campground setting.
You really felt like you were in a campground setting.
Yeah, you really did, because it was so vast, and the sets were big and physical sets, and there was lots of Yetis popping out at you. But it definitely wasn't my favorite house, but it was still a pretty good house. So I'm going to give it a solid 7.0.
I also want to know, when y'all were hiring for scare actors, were y'all like, could we get people who are 8 feet tall to play these
Seriously,
Yetis?
though. There was like NBA players in there. It's crazy.
All retired NBA players, please.
Well, they're looking for work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're going to go on to the next one, The Darkest Deal.
Yeah.
Fame is fleeting. Fear is forever. Blues musician Pine Straw Spruce will have to face the music after meeting the collector and trading his soul for musical glory. You and your squad learn the terrible price of fame.
This house is really cool. I love this house. In as far as my rankings go, this is actually my second favorite house. Dropped my pen. Sorry. It was so cool. Like it was like this jazz musician or blues musician. Again, Pine Straw Spruce is his name. Interesting name. But he kind of gets possessed by the collector and trades his soul for musical glory. And all throughout the house, he's getting progressively more and more in trouble. And he's like stuck in the wall. He's getting gored. He's getting possessed while he's on stage singing. Like it was a really, really, really cool story for a non-IP house. And I'll tell you guys, and it might have just been that one time just because I could not see the outside. So the final part of this house is like a hallway where the exit is on the right. And generally when you can see where the exit is because you can see like the outside or like one of the security guards that's standing outside. You know the exit is coming. But I don't know what they did with this house, but the curtain that was hanging over was so perfectly hung that I could not tell the exit was on the right. So I kept walking straight. And when I tell you this MF jumped out at me, like I literally almost fell down on my butt. Like I was walking straight into a scare. It wasn't on my side. I walked straight into it. And this dude popped out and scared the ever living hell out of me. So much so that my heart rate after that remained 120 plus for about 10 minutes. It scared me so bad.
Really?
It was literally the biggest jump scare I've ever had at Halloween Horror Nights. And for that reason, I ranked it as my second favorite house with a 9.0.
See, I felt differently about this house. I gave it a 7.2. A reason for that was because when I went through the house, I kind of got the story. Not until after we left and somebody was like, oh, this was what the house was about. I was like, oh, I guess I could see that. Also, the scare at the end was not intentional. Bill basically walked into that scare actor's house, and before he walked into
he threw me out of his house.
And like literally before he walked into his little scare cave, I feel like the scare actor was like, oh, he's about to be backstage.
I can't be the only one that's done that.
Okay, so here's the thing. The thing he walked into was like straightforward, which looks like it should be the exit. The exit is actually to the right. So right before Bill like was about to hit that, walk in or through the exit is what we thought. The scare actor popped out and met him
straight at me.
Like, don't come into my house.
And I like did the whole like Matrix thing where I was like bent backwards like Limbo, and I was like, wah!
So what I'm saying is I feel like it was like the perfect set of conditions to give you a scare because
it was tremendous.
I also I think that scare area looks like the exit. And I don't think that's intentional.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think it blends in really well. So, but I did think that the rest of the house was it was fun. I felt like it gave me like the Weekend vibes, but not as cool.
Okay.
And I personally want a Lady Gaga house. Give me a meat dress
let's
room.
do that for next year.
Listen to me. Give me a meat dress room.
A meat dress room?
Give me a room
That sounds stinky.
that is an entire disco ball. Give me a room where Lady Gaga is in that giant egg. Give me
What
a
about a
room,
monster's ball?
I was going to say, give me a room filled with little monsters. Give me a Lady Gaga room. Okay?
Let's do it.
But I did think it was a good house. I just wasn't.
I loved it.
It wasn't close to one of my favorites.
I really liked the story. I really liked the set. And that scare literally made me almost pee my pants. So, Darkest Deal, solid house. Loved it.
I mean, if I was giving points for watching you get the soul scared out of you.
Oh, yeah. No, he stole my soul. Yeah. My soul is in that house. And it will never leave.
What was funny is you were holding my hand and you turned around to talk to me and somebody behind me. So when you turned around is when the scare actor was in your face.
Oh, he was in my face.
He or she, whoever.
Whatever.
Like, it was...
You killed it, man.
But you almost killed him.
Seriously, I've never been more scared in my entire life at Halloween Horror Nights.
It was amazing watching it happen in real time.
So we've got 3 more houses we're going to touch on. And these ones are up there or are our favorites. We are going to touch on The Exorcist Believer. Now, when we went through this house, we knew that it was called The Exorcist Believer, and we do know that The Exorcist Believer is a film that is coming out in early October. So this movie is not out yet. We don't know the plot. We don't know the characters. If it's like a shot-for-shot remake of The Exorcist, we have no idea. But going through this, we knew that ahead of time. So it's an evil reawakened. 2 missing girls have been found with no memory of what happened to them. But wherever they went, the ultimate evil has returned with them. Enter the most terrifying scenes from the new Blumhouse film, The Exorcist Believer.
So, first off, Exorcist comes out October 6th.
Okay.
And
I'll be going to see it.
I want to say that they had to push it back because of the Taylor Swift release.
I did hear that. They pushed it up.
Up, like, to the 6th from the 13th. Okay. First off, I'm going to just straight up say I gave this a 7 because The Exorcist and anything that has to do with this is, like, scary
Uber
enough as
creepy.
it is.
Yeah.
As somebody who grew up Catholic and went to Catholic school, and I still have a healthy respect for scary stuff with religion.
Yeah.
And when you start adding those things together, like Ouija boards and different things, I just remember like my teachers and stuff in Catholic school talking about that stuff. And so I don't even think it's fun in a scary way. So when I walk through it, I'm like, okay, spooky. Like, say your prayers and get through the house.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee.
Yeah, and a lot of the scenes were very, very beautifully done. You actually looked like you were in a house.
It was really well done. There was rooms and hallways that weren't just like curtains like you normally get at Halloween Horror Nights. They were like straight up hallways.
So the reason I'm not so like in love with this is, first off, we haven't gotten to see the movie yet.
Right.
And second off, I don't want more of it. I don't want to like relive it over and over again because it kind of like creeps me out a little bit in more of like a way that's a little too.
The power of Christ compels you.
Yeah.
I feel like you need holy water to go through there.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
You know, I really liked it. I thought it was super gory. It was super scary. Like Danny said, the set design was amazing. The characters were cool. The little exorcist girls were like popping out of nowhere, and then this devil Satan looking guy kept popping out of nowhere, and it was bloody. It was gross. It was definitely the most intense house, I think, as far as scares go. It
was just very demonic, and I like my scares more murdery and less demonic.
Right, exactly.
Even though Chucky is a demon-possessed doll.
Yeah.
I like it more
but he's a doll.
supernatural.
He's a good guy.
I prefer it to be more supernatural than like religion I grew up with.
Sure.
You know, that's how I feel about it, at least. But it's still a great house,
Yeah.
and it gives you the creeps, which is it did exactly what you want it to.
What was your rank?
Oh, I gave it a 7.
7. I'll go 7.5 because I think it was good enough to be ranked in the top 5, but it was definitely gross and scary and intense. So if you're not into that kind of thing, you may want to skip The Exorcist Believer.
All right. So next we are going to talk about Stranger Things 4,
Woo!
which, if you have been listening to us for a while, you know that we brought this house into existence.
Sure did. Back in January.
We manifested this house.
Back in January.
Is that Chucky?
Yeah. Chucky said Stranger Things is coming to Horror Nights. Again, don't fuck with the Chuck.
You have to mark down when you said that again.
Of course I did.
Um,
Because the people who aren't on Patreon get it bleeped.
well, I think I think what's funny is when you're watching the show also. What did he say the other day on the show? He was like, "Welcome back to fucking Chucky."
oh, I know what you're talking about. It
was like when they're going over the like this is what happened on
yeah,
the previous
yeah,
episode.
yeah. So it was one of those things where like we were watching the beginning of the episode and it was giving a little recap and it was like it was previously on fucking Chucky.
There you go.
Oh my god!
And
it
I
was
think that's
so
when we fell in love with the
funny.
show. We were like, yes, this is amazing. Anyway, another thing we loved is Stranger Things 4. We have watched the season 4 twice through. Before Halloween Horror Nights, we actually got on Netflix and paid for a month of Netflix and then canceled it after we finished
We
Stranger-
went through and watched all like 15 hours of season 4 again.
Yes, and then we canceled it after we finished Stranger
Because
Things
Netflix
4.
sucks and they're so expensive.
Yes, they really are. And now they don't allow password sharing, so sorry, I don't want to pay for you anymore.
You stink.
Or where previously we were sharing with people who doesn't. That's why everybody's so mad
As-
about it.
As did everyone else.
Don't lie. You know that you do it too. If you're listening, you know that you do it too.
Yeah, I'm staring at you.
That was the sound of staring.
Yeah.
All right.
Sound of silence, my old friend.
All right. Wait, one more sound of staring. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, you felt that. Even you, listener, felt that. All right. Try to escape the curse of Vecna. You'll need your squad to resist Vecna's gruesome curse. Like 11, now's your chance to stop him once and for all as you take on the scary season of Stranger Things yet. Okay. I can't wait to go through this house again, which we're going to be able to this week. That is one of my top priorities. But the first time we went through this house, all I did was jump up and down. And I'm not supposed to be
Yes.
jumping up and down because I am injured.
Correct.
And I'm not supposed to be jumping up and down. But this house was so good the entire time. Every scene, I was just like, yay! Yay! Oh my gosh, yay! And I just,
This house to me felt like, and I know Rise of the Resistance isn't the best example because it's not like straight up based on one of the Star Wars movies, but if it actually was based on episode 7 and a ride being that epic, going through scene by scene and reliving those scenes scene by scene, that's what going through this house felt like. We loved Stranger Things season 4 so much that going through every single room was just a total geek out moment for both of us. None of us were scared, ever. Vecna did not scare me at all. However, getting to relive scenes like the trailer at the very beginning, Eddie's trailer with the Chrissy, wake up!
I
And-
don't like
yeah,
this.
but then, like,
Chrissy, wake up.
You walk into the trailer and the outside, the Stranger
hello.
Things music is playing, and you see like a silhouette of Chrissy getting cracked. And then you walk into the trailer, and Eddie's right there. He's like, bah! And then on the right, Chrissy's all cracked on the ceiling, and you're like, this is off to a hell of a start. Oh my god! And so you're going through scene after scene, and you run into the grandfather clock, and you run into Vecna, and you run into all the characters you love from season 4 and all these different iconic scenes, and it was so good.
And the scene where Eddie and Dustin, that scene,
Yes.
I feel like I was at a concert.
The Metallica scene.
I felt like the Backstreet Boys had just come out because I was like, yeah, oh my gosh, look, there they are. Ah! And I was like jumping up and down and like.
And the costumes and the set was so perfect. Like they were on top of the trailer and Dustin had his trash can with the nails sticking out of it. And Eddie had the guitar and the bats were flying around. And it was so great.
So I have to say something.
Go.
This is the closest you can get to a perfect Halloween horror
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
Halloween horror night.
So much so that I changed my score.
So did I.
Okay.
I changed mine to a 9.9. Do you know why?
Why?
I took off a fraction of a point
Okay.
because you need to turn that music up in the haunted houses.
Yes.
So my only complaint is that I couldn't hear the Stranger Things sounds like the music loud enough.
Right.
I want to hear Kate Bush running up that hill. I want my eardrums to be dancing to it when you're playing it.
Yeah.
And then at the beginning where you hear like the classic like bum 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 bum, it was just like
yeah.
And I was like, wait, like I'm already hyping. It's like a whisper.
And here's the thing too. We went on opening night for Stranger Things.
Yes.
I wonder if those things have been tweaked since then.
Well, I mean,
because we got to go through it again.
I mean, if you turn it up, then I'm giving it a perfect 10.
Right.
Because out of all the houses I've ever been through, this is the most perfect. It is chef's kiss. It was everything that we have manifested.
Because it was the only critiques that I really truly had was the audio visual. Like Danny, you couldn't hear the music. I never heard Running Up That Hill, except for that one scene where they showed the silhouettes of Max rising up.
And you could barely
hear it. It was really
hear it.
low. And then Eddie's music could have been so much louder, like walking through like a rock scene.
Oh, yeah.
Like that would have been epic. And then my only other real critique was that the scene where they're in the Upside Down with Eddie and Dustin, and when you're in Vecna's lair, not the attic, but like that red area that he's in where he fights Eleven.
Yeah.
It was not very red. It seemed like it was like almost like a brown, like a dark. It wasn't like bright red like it was in the show. And I feel like just simple LEDs would fix that. That would really honestly be my only critique, is it didn't feel like Vecna's lair. It wasn't like bright red. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also feel like to have these kind of critiques, like they did these
well.
are,
you have to really do it perfectly for us to give you a 10. I'm going to find a little something because this was as close to a 10 as possible.
And what did you give?
9.8.
So I also want to say that every video we've watched and everybody we've talked to have also said that they had a similar reaction walking through the house. That basically, the word that I keep hearing is fangirling.
Yeah.
That everybody who walks through this house is like just like having just like an epic, almost like happy meltdown because they've walked directly into the series.
Right.
And so you're welcome for manifesting this house so perfectly. And I think because we did manifest it so early, we were able to do it almost perfectly. So you're welcome. And I'm just kidding. Universal, y'all absolutely slayed this one.
Oh my God. Such a good house. Like I cannot wait to go back and do that again. Just because it's just such a total geek out moment for me.
Yeah. And honestly, we haven't been able to go back because the wait times for that house has been like
astronomical.
It's been 2 hours or more a lot of the time.
It's the highest wait times for a reason. It is that good.
Because we've been watching the wait times for these houses, because there was one night that we were going to go and it was sold out, and we were like, well, maybe we'll wait another night. And like I've been kind of watching the app and seeing like what tends to be favorited.
Yep.
And Stranger Things is definitely up there.
For sure. So we've got one more house we're going to cover, and that is Dr. Oddfellow's Twisted Origins. And the reason why we saved this one for last is because Dr. Oddfellow is the icon for Halloween Horror Nights 32, this year's iteration of Halloween Horror Nights. Your soul is a price he's willing to pay. You won't be able to resist going inside Dr. Oddfellow's menacing menagerie of twisted oddities. What a mouthful. But the price for you and your friends is steep, the cost of your souls to feed his immortal power.
I want to hear what you have to say about this house first.
So I didn't really know much about Dr. Oddfellow. Apparently he debuted at Halloween Horror Nights 10, which is like 22 years ago, if I do that math right. He's a very like Dr. Facilier looking guy. He's got this top hat, kind of feels like he's super voodoo. But he apparently collects souls to feed his immortality.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that. I think that's really cool. And we'll touch on this in a second in the Dr. Oddfellow's Scare Zone. Something really cool that he does. But I absolutely loved this non-intellectual property house. I thought it was really great. The outside had projected, it looked like a circus tent on the tent that was outside that you go into this house.
It was projected?
It literally, it was red and yellow projected circus house.
Oh, I didn't realize it was projected. Wow.
Yeah. So that's touch number one. That was really cool. And then going through the house, everybody was saying like, oh, if you don't like clowns, don't go in this house. But there really wasn't a lot of clowns in there. It was a lot of odd things and a lot of jump scares, like fantastic jump scares. A lot of really cool colors and visuals and characters, and I absolutely love this house. I think if Darkest Deal didn't literally scare my pants off, this would have been my absolute number one non-IP house this year. And it still might be when I go back, because Darkest Deal, I'm going to know that scare is coming, so it might change my score. But Dr. Oddfellow was awesome. So I gave it an 8.5.
So, I don't know if we've ever really talked about this. We probably have at some point. We've talked about American Horror Story. I love American Horror Story.
Some of it's good.
I love that they use, or for a long time, they use the same actors every season who play different characters.
That is cool. I like that.
I love how creative that is because you get to see different sides and then you never know who each actor is playing. Anyway, you're right, not every season is going to be perfect, and some people have different favorites.
The witch ones were weird.
Yeah. Coven you're talking about.
Yeah.
But there's a new season I'm excited to watch, but one of my very favorite seasons is called Freak Show. And two of the penguins I used to work with were named after characters from Freak Show.
What'd you call me?
I called you Honeybun.
Oh, there you go.
I know that's Simba.
I thought I heard Freak Show.
And that's Simba.
Oh, Simba's Freak Show?
No, he's Honeybun.
Oh, he's Honeybun. So I'm Freak Show and he's Honeybun.
Yeah, my Freak Show.
I love you.
I love you too. You can call me Freak Show.
No.
Okay, fine. Anyway.
I'm nice.
Anyway, two of the penguins that I worked with, Meep and Pepper, were both named after characters from that season.
Meep.
Meep. And that's a great show. And this haunted house very much gave the vibes of Freak Show. So I would be curious if the person who kind of came up with this like house's idea was also a fan of American Horror Story and also that season. Because I definitely felt like I walked into that season, but instead of the Freak Show American Horror Story characters, that I had Dr. Oddfellow. So I gave this a 9.2. I thought that the way this house was done, at the very beginning, you walk through and there's nothing. Like,
yeah.
It's almost like an extension of the line.
You're just waiting for something to happen while you're going through that.
And my first thought was, this sucks. There's no scare actors. Like, what is wrong with this house? And I definitely was like, I feel like it was an extension of the line, because as soon as you get past that, there are so many cool scenes, nonstop scare actors. There's this really cool scene where they have a lion puppet that when you look at it, you're like, whoa, that's so cool. And they set you up for a really big scare. And so that was one of my biggest scares of the night when we went.
Yeah.
And Dr. Oddfellow, every time we saw him, the way that he was cast was very flawless. Like, they all, like, everything flowed so beautifully. So I thought this is my second favorite house. I'm excited to go through it again. I'm also curious if there will be any scare actors at the beginning. If there was just like maybe like a switch.
Maybe.
They were going through like a switch at that moment, because at the very beginning there were no scare actors.
Well, I think that's the coolest part about that. And I know you said that it was kind of weird, but the whole time I was walking through that beginning part, I was waiting for something to pop out at me, and the anticipation was growing, and nothing ever did until we got to the part where more characters were, but which became awesome. But that beginning part was like building the intensity for me.
I like the way that you thought about that, because for me, I was like, you're wasting my time in this house without having anything to look at.
Yeah.
But I was like, maybe I'm just hungry for scares. I'm like, excuse me, are you going to scare me?
I feel like every time I'm in a haunted house, the longer I go in between scares, the more nervous I get.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like sometimes when you're just constantly like scared,
Right.
You don't have time to like react.
Right.
But well, those are going to be all of our houses. And in case you were keeping track, or we're not keeping track, Stranger Things was above and beyond our favorite house.
Correct.
With a 9.8 and a 9.9. And then what was your second favorite house?
My second favorite house was The Darkest Deal, and that was a 9.0 for me.
And then mine was Dr. Oddfellow's Twisted Origins with a 9.2. And then did you have a third?
Dr. Oddfellows was my third at 8.5.
And then my third favorite was Chucky Ultimate Kill Count, 8.5.
Okay.
Which the only reason that it wasn't higher up is because those other top two houses for me were just...
They were spectacular.
They were spectacular, exactly. All right, so let's move on.
Let's touch on the scare zones. Sort of quickly. We're pretty far into this episode already, but let's touch on all the scare zones here. Let's first go right when you walk into Halloween Horror Nights. You get that iconic sign that says Halloween Horror Nights right in the front there, and that scare zone is Dr. Oddfellow's collection of horror. Dr. Oddfellow will lure you into Halloween Horror Nights with the promise of immortality. As he lifts the veil on all the horrors to come, you'll soon realize you may not even survive the night.
So I gave this a 4.0 because every time we walked through it, which was multiple times, there were like very few scare actors. We saw and I just feel like if you're gonna have the icon of Halloween Horror Nights
and have the scare zone named after him
and have it right in the front, like, it's been way better in past years.
Sure.
And if we've walked through multiple times, there should have been at least one time where we saw more than 2 scare actors.
And I do understand it's a very busy area, so having more and more scare actors probably isn't the best idea, just because there's so many people that congregate in that area for photos and all that.
But you should see more
But there should be more.
You should see more than 2.
Correct.
On average.
Correct.
Like, and
the little stage that Dr. Oddfellow had set up over by where Hello Kitty is, right on the corner there, it was cool to see him doing his thing, and he roasts the audience over their
the one time
astrological
we saw
signs.
it. Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. Been talking about how he's immortal and everybody wishes they could be immortal like him, and it's really neat to see him out there and doing his thing. But that scare zone is kind of underwhelming. Honestly, it doesn't even feel like a scare zone. It just feels like the entrance to Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah.
So I sort of agree with Danny. I went a little bit higher, but I'm going to 5.
So I think this could be a top scare zone if you just put scare actors in it and make them more available, and not make it feel like, exactly like Bill said, walking through an entrance.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next is going to be Dark Zodiac, Hollywood. So this is in Hollywood. Dr. Oddfellow has entered a dark dimension to harness the power of the Zodiac and live forever. He twists the signs into malevolent beings who foretell your doom. As his star rises, yours fall. I'm just going to tell you, this was my lowest rated house, 3.5.
Wow.
Not cohesive. I felt like the costumes were all over the place. it feels like somebody who's obsessed with astrology really wanted to run with this, thinking that everybody would be extremely well versed in astrology. Um, and I don't think there's really anything that.
Well, Dr. Oddfellow is very astrology based, so I can understand why they would want to do that. But I totally agree with you there, where this scare zone just kind of felt like a random collection of things.
As I was saying, it didn't land at all.
Yeah.
You walk through, if you don't go and do your research and read on the app where it came from, it just feels like somebody obsessed with astrology made up some random ass costumes. Excuse me, I didn't mean to curse. I just didn't like.
You said ass. You're talking about a donkey.
Random booty costumes.
Yeah.
And I just fail.
My biggest critique here is that, and I get it's Halloween Horror Nights, and you have to have a scare zone that has chainsaws, but in this dark dimension, the Zodiac and all these random characters and these creepy looking things, like there's a great couple of characters in there, but having these dudes run around with chainsaws throughout this whole scare zone completely ruined it for me. The sound overtakes everything.
So loud.
You don't hear any sort of like noises or music or anything like that. All you hear is the and it's like, no, that just doesn't do it for me. And I know chainsaws are scary, but they don't belong in this part.
No, again, this scare zone was not cohesive at all. Costumes just made no sense. And I also didn't get scared at all. I had 0 scares. I was more confused about, what is that? What are you supposed to be? Are you supposed to be scary? I gave it a 3.5. Bill gave it a 6.5. Just didn't land.
It's too bad, because that Hollywood area is such a great area for a scare zone, and it was honestly the best scare zone last year.
100%. It's just, it's okay. Not, they
not
tried.
Hit them all out of the park.
I really stand by my statement that I think somebody who is obsessed with astrology pushed this scare zone, and it just didn't land.
Agreed.
All right. Next, Jungle of Doom, Expedition Horror in Central Park. In the 1920s, Dr. Oddfellow ventured deep into the darkest jungle, performing horrific experiments on nature. Now his monstrous creatures are running amok and are coming after you. I gave this a 4. This is always the worst scare zone because of the size.
It's so small.
I say worst because it's very close together and a very short area. So when I first started going to Halloween Horror Nights, when we first started going, people always said this was the worst one. And I think it stands true. There's just not a lot you can do with that. And so not really, I just feel like it kind of looks the same every year. I don't know how you feel about that.
It just feels like a overgrown jungle area that spooky things pop out of holes, and it can be scary because it's really foggy in there, and you can't really see much when you're going through there. So there's definitely times where things pop out at you, but none of the characters were particularly scary. So I didn't love this scare zone either. So I gave it a 6.
All right, so a 4 and a 6 for that one. Next is Vamp 69.
Yes. So I really wanted to touch on this one because I love music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, classic rock, Beatles era.
You sound like a radio DJ.
Yeah. Classic rock. Park Hoppers 93.7. Yeah. So this scare zone, the best way to describe it, I'll read the description for you. It's at a 60s music fest in a small New York town. You'll jam to popular bands with fellow concert goers until Dr. Oddfellow unleashes vicious vampires on the audience. They're out for your blood. Now, one thing to note, and you're going to hear Dr. Oddfellow in all of these, is that they actually tied Dr. Oddfellow into all of the scare zones, which is a really cool touch for this year that I don't remember them doing in the years that we've gone, tying the icon into all of the scare zones.
Right.
So the best way I can describe what Vamp 69 is if you went to the original Woodstock, not that nonsense that happened a couple years ago, the original Woodstock from 1960, whatever it was, and then just had vampires running around killing people and turning them into more vampires, essentially.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this was. This was in the New York section, so all along in front of the Mummy, right over by Jimmy Fallon, and then literally all the way down past where the pretzel place is and almost down into San Francisco. It was a huge scare zone.
Right.
And I love the music. It was like Beatles, it was the Monkees, like all different kinds of 60s music. A bunch of hippies running around, a bunch of buses with peace signs on them, like exactly what you expect from Woodstock. But their people were all bloody and they were being chased by vampires, and they had like frying pans they were trying to protect themselves, and it was such a great scare zone. So this one is by far my favorite, and I gave it an 8.5.
I gave this one a 9 because this is what I expect from scare zones. Universal knocked this out of the park because we've seen so many really cool scare zones. I know what some of these are, the capabilities of scare zones. And this one I feel like is spot on with what you have grown to expect from Universal for Halloween Horror Nights. All of the characters and the team members, the scare actors, there you go, in this scare zone were so committed, and every interaction was so much fun. Like you'd have like a hippie come up to you and he'd be like, "Hey man, this is really bad. They're hurting us real bad, man," and talk about their feelings and how they're not going to make it to the next show. And like the interactions were so much fun, and like I loved that mix of like real life and horror. And I just think that they did such a fantastic job. And all of the scare actors, I wish we could give them all a fist bump, the UO fist bump, because
especially the guy who danced the whole time.
Well, it's funny because like there were multiple platforms where people were just dancing the entire time, which feels like very much like Woodstock could have been, where like there's
they're just ingested something that was making them hallucinate, and they're feeling good, and they're just dancing and don't have a care in the world.
Yeah, hey man, peace and love.
Yeah, exactly.
And so yes, I think that I think it was well deserved of the 8.5 that Bill gave and the 9.0 that I gave.
Yeah, it was such a great scare zone. It's such a fun scare zone to walk through, and I know in contrary to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/a-couple-of-parkhoppers, and go check out our scare zone video. We did like a best of scare zone. We walked through all 5 scare zones, and check out what we're talking about here in the Vamp 69 scare zone, because it is so much fun. We got so many great moments from the characters and the folks attending the music festival, and it's such a vibe. You got to go check it out. youtube.com/a-couple-of-parkhoppers.
Yeah. All right, and lastly, Shipyard 32, Horrors Unhinged, San Francisco. Enter a 1940 San Francisco shipping yard full of mysterious crates and cages bearing Dr. Oddfellow's symbol. Beware. His nightmarish oddities have now escaped, spreading fear and chaos in their wake. I gave this one a 7.5. This is a very small scare zone in my opinion, but there are some awesome little scenes, and there are awesome like little scares. There's also my favorite character this year from a scare zone, which is this bat.
Yeah, she's like a big bat lady.
But she's on stilts this year.
Yeah. Yep.
And last year she was just walking around in our favorite scare
zone.
zone.
Well, it was a similar character.
But I mean, a bat.
Yeah.
You know, she was in our
Big
favorite scare
wings.
zone. Yeah. And every interaction I had with her, I love watching her. I think it was doesn't she look like a female bat? I think the way that she's dressed. But regardless, she is such a cool character, and that tiny scare zone, they just made they took all of the opportunities in that space to utilize it to its max. I just wish it was a little bit bigger. Like I wish they stretched it out a little bit more.
Yeah. It went from the end of Vamp 69 all the way down to England, where Harry Potter stuff starts.
Right. So And then I gave it a little bit of a lower score because there were a couple times that I walked through and there weren't as many characters. And for such a small scare zone, you only have so many opportunities to see characters.
Right.
So I would like to experience that more. And I get sometimes people are switching out.
Yeah.
It's long nights for those scare actors. So, but yeah, I gave it a 7.5.
Yeah, I gave it a solid 7. I agree with almost everything Danny said. I wish it was a little bit bigger because it was really cool. There's lots of caged characters, lots of like dark caged characters. So like you'd walk up next to the cage not realizing anything's in there, and then all of a sudden it would like bang the cage and like rattle it, and lights would flash and make noises. And then there was another one that was a really great scare. It was almost looked like a crate, and then this thing like busts through the crate and then goes back in, and the crate like returns to its original form. So that was really cool.
There was also like the Tooth Fairy
Yeah.
that came out of a box.
Yep.
And so there were just a lot of cool opportunities. So, but still the Vamp 69 was still overall both of our favorite scare zones.
Correct.
All right. So the last thing we're going to talk about is the only entertainment available. Currently, there's no water show. I forget what it's called. The hurricane last year, I think there was some damage to some of that stuff. So
we're hoping it comes back soon.
Yeah, but that's why we're not talking about it, because currently it's not offered. So, and hurricanes are mean. So that's just kind of what happened. But what we are going to talk about is Nightmare Fuel. Revenge Dream. The show that sparked your darkest dreams has reignited. Let your nightmares burn out of control as the pyro and aerial performers fire you up to the beat of metal and electronics.
Love it. This show is just something to be experienced. It's the third iteration of Nightmare Fuel. When it debuted 2 years ago, everybody was like, what is this? It was because for a long time it was like a pop culture comedy show with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and then all of a sudden it was like this leather chain dominatrix sex fire sleep show, and it was like, what is happening?
It was full of gyrations.
Literally.
And people like leather and chains and fire, and just like it was just a sexy, amped up show.
It's great. It's so much fun to watch live because everyone just has such a great time watching it, and all the moments everybody just pops for.
Okay, so can I talk about something real quick?
Sure, yeah.
So
you're probably going to talk about the same thing
yes.
I was about to.
So we went with our friends from Alley Rocks 405.
Shout out to Alley Rocks.
So go find them on Facebook. We're going to go back to them in a second. But we were sitting with them, and there's this magic trick at the very beginning. And for the life of us, we can't figure out
no idea
how they are doing this magic trick. And
we sat in a vantage point all the way to the right inside that stadium where you would literally be able to see it if you were going to see it.
Yeah.
And I have no freaking clue how they do it.
And it's so funny because the people we were sitting with, like right after that magic trick happened, like the person sitting next to us just goes, "What the fuck?" Super
Danny
loud.
Swearing.
What? I didn't say it in the show. I mean, I guess I said it on the show, though. But the thing is, that's the initial reaction for some of these tricks. Like, they're such mind benders that when you see it in person, you're like, how?
Yeah.
Now, I just want to say I gave this show an 8.5. There's a scene in this that I said feels like the inside of my head. It's just, there's a lot going on, and that's what it feels like in the inside of my head all the time. But one of the things that bothers me this year, and I'm just going to talk about this.
Sure.
Is at the beginning of the show, it says, "Do not record." No recording.
Yeah. Yep.
We have followed that to a T. We have no TikTok content for it. We have no Instagram content for it. We have no YouTube content for it. But guess what? It's all over social media because they are allowing people to record. So because we are a brand and we are following the rules so that we don't get in trouble,
We like Universal.
we love Universal. We want to be able to work with them as media in the future. We are following the rules to a T. So I just wish that they would make up their minds.
Enforce that a little bit.
Yeah, because it's really frustrating to see that and be like, we love this show. We'd love to show people this show.
Right.
And if you don't want people to record, maybe you should make sure people don't record. And so that's really frustrating. I gave the show an 8.5. I think the previous years have been a little bit better.
Okay.
In terms of some of the tricks.
Yeah, the aerial stuff I think was better in past years for sure.
And some of the like there were just some other, I wish there was more magic tricks.
Yeah, lots of magic and fire tricks that have definitely been a little bit more notable in past years.
I also think that there are a couple scenes where there are very large bangs.
Yes.
And I don't think that's necessary. And I think that needs to be taken out for the sake of people who are sensitive to that stuff. That's not me, but people who, you know, may have different either PTSD or are sensitive to like something that basically sounds like a bomb.
There is a warning at the beginning of the show about strobes and fire and noises and stuff like that, but it was really loud. It sounded like an actual bomb.
But there were like two parts that I think they could probably take out and still have the same.
Not change the show at all.
Not change the show at all.
Yeah.
I just think that there's a big difference between being loud and being like sounding like we're having an emergency.
Yeah, we're under attack.
Yeah.
You know.
So that's the only reason I gave it an 8.5. I love this show. I'm excited to see what they come up with every year, and I can't wait to say it again this year.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I did really like the introduction of the Nightmare Queen. I thought that was really cool. At the very end, there's a character debut that wasn't in past shows with a really cool outfit and like dance sequences and things like that. So I really, really loved that. I'm going to up my score that I wrote down. I wrote down a 7.5, but I think I'm going to up it to agree with you as an 8.5. I really do enjoy going to this show. I love being in that crowd, and everybody's so hyped about everything.
And shocked.
It's so much fun. So, yeah, Nightmare Fuel Revenge Dream gets an 8.5 for me.
And I just have to say before we move on from this, the talent in this show
Oh, my God.
is incredible. And the people in this show give their all to it on that stage at every single show.
The dancing and the choreography and the aerial arts and everything is just incredible. They're
Like,
so great.
I can't commend the amount of talent and the amount of just putting your heart and soul on that stage that they do in this show. And I know that all of the scare actors do, but I just want to give a shout out to them because they exude a lot of energy during that show.
There's performers and then there's performers. And these people are performers.
Yeah, and we're talking about in a stage capacity because obviously,
they're
like
professional performers.
Because obviously, like a haunted house and performing on a stage is very different. But yeah, so can't recommend it enough. I will say though, if you're going with kids,
you may want to skip that one.
You may want to,
unless you've had the talk.
not from us, but there are videos on YouTube. I might take a peek at that.
Yeah.
I'm not encouraging to watch videos that aren't supposed to be taken, but I would like to encourage if you have smaller children or younger kids that you may want to take a look at that and decide if that's something that you are comfortable sharing with them.
Correct. Because you don't want to get up and leave in the middle of the show. That's just
nobody does.
You don't want to do that.
But all right, so we've gone over all of our Halloween Horror Nights. What do you think about this event as a whole?
I think it's great. It's one of my favorite Halloween Horror Nights that I've attended. There's a lot of great houses. There's some not so great scare zones and not so great houses, but that's going to happen every year. I really do enjoy this event very much. I want to go more. We have those frequent fear passes. That allows us to go 3 times a week for the entirety of the event. So I definitely want to try to take more advantage of that and try to hit some of these houses again and see if my scores maybe adjust.
And as always, we're going to give like a rundown at the end of the season.
Yep.
One thing that we're going to be doing that we haven't done in previous years is we're actually going to be live streaming from the event, just briefly here and there, because obviously we want to enjoy the event. And the thing is, we can't live stream in houses, so that kind of
Correct.
minimizes what we can do. The other day, we went and live streamed through
We
Scarezones.
beta tested.
Yeah, we beta tested. We actually had a couple hundred people who were very excited about walking around with us. And when we ended, we had a couple hundred people, but we were meeting up with people already and didn't realize that it was going to blow up like that.
Right.
Well, our friends who we're meeting up with were Alley Rocks. So if you don't follow them on socials already, go follow them.
Alley Rocks 405 on literally everything. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook group. Go join the group. It is a wonderful place with people who spread art around the world to bring awareness to drunk driving.
Yes, and
or against drunk driving.
Yes, and to keep Allie's spirit alive. And so we have something very special that you on Patreon are seeing first. And if you know who Little Boo is, he's a character at Halloween Horror Nights that has kind of come to be out of just a love of just a little pumpkin that was carved out. Well, we have what we're calling Alley Boos. And it's Little Boo, but they're little Alley Boos.
That's the first time I've heard that name, by the way.
Danette commented
Alley
on
Boos. I love it.
Danette, Allie's mom, said on one of our posts, she was like, "I love Alley Boos," and I was like, "Oh, I love that.
I love it."
So the wonderful team at Alley Rocks, they are printing us 3D printed Little Boos, and we have some of these. And if it goes well, we may get sent more. But we're going to be live streaming, and if you can come and find us, we're going to have a couple things that we ask for you to do. Make sure that you're following Alley Rocks on Facebook, continue growing. But if you come find us while we're live streaming,
one of these little Alley Boos can go home with you.
Yeah. So this is actually the only way you can get this.
Yes.
Is by coming and finding us.
That's it.
And supporting Alley Rocks.
We're the only ones who have them.
So, our live stream with the giving away the Little Boos, it's going to be a beta test also.
Right. Yeah.
But as you know, we partner with Alley Rocks, who is a nonprofit. We support them in any way that we can. So we wanted to find a fun way for you guys to get involved. And if people are excited about this, maybe we can even try to see if we can give one away, to our listeners who can't be at Halloween Horror Nights.
Correct.
But that's not confirmed, which we're going to first off be bringing these guys to find their homes at Halloween Horror Nights.
Yes, and we will let you know ahead of time when we're going to be streaming, so you will have ample notice to get your butt down to Halloween Horror Nights to find us while we're live streaming.
And we have more than 3, by the way.
Yeah, no, we've got like 20. To get your hands on one of these little Alley Boos.
Like, they come in all different colors. And again, this is an Alley Rocks exclusive. The only way you can get this, what is it, the file to print it, is not a public file. It's only with Alley Rocks. So come support Alley Rocks and get Alley Boos and have a good time supporting this wonderful and keep Alley. Now, again, Alley Rocks 405. Go find them. And on that note, I think we are done talking about Halloween Horror Nights for now.
We are done. My voice is done, by the way.
That's okay.
It's dying.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
But yeah, we are going to wrap up this episode here. We're going a little over time here, but that's okay. We had a lot to cover. We had 10 houses. We had 5 scare zones and the leather sex fire show to cover. And so we covered all 16 items. We did it. We even made a rundown. Look at that. And then I had to mark down all the times that I swore and then Danny swore out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. So you Patreons get to hear her say the F word for the first time on our show.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, maybe. I guess I think you've bleeped it out in the past.
I always bleep it out, yeah.
Yay.
We got to keep that that non-explicit rating on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
You know, so that's gonna wrap it up for us. We really enjoyed going over all these things here. We're so glad to be back bringing episodes to you guys after our cruise and sickness and visitors and all that fun stuff we had going on in the last 30 days. But we're going to get out of here.
I do want to let you guys know that even though at the top of the show we talked about YouTube and our frustration, every like, comment, share, watch that you do, even on YouTube, even though we're going through this, helps to support us.
Correct.
And like I said, we're going to be looking at everything and making sure that we're going to be bringing more consistent content, especially when it comes to our show. And we just have so many things and so many businesses that we're going to be working with. We're so excited to share all of that with you. But again, it still goes a very long way when you go and watch a YouTube video, even if right now we're kind of battling YouTube.
And if you don't already, search for A Couple of Park Hoppers on your TV on YouTube, or go to youtube.com/A Couple of Park Hoppers. Go ahead and subscribe to that channel, and then go through and watch some of our videos. Check out what we got going on, and hit the like button, the thumbs up button on those videos. It really does help grow the channel. And maybe, just maybe, if YouTube sees all this activity on our videos, they're going to be like, well, these people are legit. We're going to give them their channel back.
Well,
because we're not buttholes anymore.
Well, on top of that, if, this does take a little bit longer, we'll still get to continue growing as we're going through that. And that'll be a bigger help than you guys know, because
Correct.
We're in it for the long term with you guys, and we love you guys for supporting us. But we're going to go ahead and let you guys go. We're excited to return back to Halloween Horror Nights, hopefully this week. We're excited to keep watching Chucky the show. And overall, we're just excited for everything that's to come.
Yes.
We hope you guys are staying healthy, staying hydrated. The weather's starting to cool down. And until next time,
we will see you guys around the parks, and thanks for listening.
And we'll see you in the fog.